Disney has been on a crusade against the very people who made them money in the first place, and they are constantly attacking people who don't support their new woke content. But now a Disney exec is blaming fans and refusing to take the blame for failures that Star Wars, the Marvels, and all of their franchises are currently facing. I have a few things to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, follow me on social media, and consider supporting through Patreon or via YouTube memberships. Now, obviously, hearing about an executive attacking fans really isn't all that surprising anymore. They have been doing it for years at this point. There are higher-ups at every single company who end up hating the very people that made them money in the first place, but it is just sad to see, and it's also hilarious to point and laugh at them because without us, they wouldn't have been successful in the first place, but also we are the reason why they are freaking out, the reason why they are panicking, and if they just simply listened to us and our feedback and tried to make products good again, people would return, people would support them, but they've doubled, tripled, and quadrupled down on the narratives that they want to push, the directions that they've wanted to take in franchises in, like Kathleen Kennedy and The Force is Female. Clearly, it has been years of people fighting back against that, years of people being uninterested in that direction, but they continue to barrel forward with it. I mean, look at Marvel. Marvel used to be so popular. Look at the Infinity War saga and how massively successful that was, but instead they've decided to go in the direction of the Marvels that absolutely no one wants, not even the female viewers that they're trying to market it to. But this is a Cosmic Book News article. It says the exec is so caught up in his/her woke BS that she doesn't even realize the Disney Star Wars trilogy and movies like the Marvels are simply bad films. Now, we do not know exactly who this executive is, but the source that is actually releasing this information is someone who has been in the industry for a very long time, very credible, or else I probably would not be talking about it. But the Disney executive is currently unknown, but they actually had direct messaged Matt Bellani, and this comes from Matt Bellani's newsletter from Puck News. He is a former editor at THR and a lawyer, and basically, from what we understand, this executive was messaging, DMing back and forth with him, and this is what they had to say. Light feedback this holiday weekend, but I want to share a DM I got from a Disney executive in response to Thursday's column on whether the politicization of the Disney brand impacts box office. And before we even get into what the exec said, this definitely is the case. When you shove politics into your product, even if it's well hidden, a lot of the times people can catch on now, and people are not as dumb as they were in 2019. People are not blindly supporting brands like they were back in 2019. Of course, there are still some individuals that will simp for these companies and defend them tooth and nail, but I think general audiences have gotten quite a bit smarter. They see a trailer and they see, oh, clearly there's a girl boss or feminist message behind this. Clearly, I can see themes of things like climate change already in it, and people are just not buying into that bullshit anymore. And I do think the politicization of Disney as a company has definitely had impacts on their box office numbers. I mean, we found out last year they lost over $1 billion at the box office, and that is, of course, because of several reasons. But when you really start looking at the content that is in these movies and which movies were major failures for them, you can see clear as day why they ended up failing. Here are the 4 flops of 2023 that cost Disney $1 billion. First off, we had Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, visually one of the worst movies I have seen in the MCU, of course. The CGI was rushed, the story was really mediocre, of course the cast of characters was okay, but they definitely were leaning heavily on Cassie Lang. Of course, we know that now it seems like at least their future plan is the new or young Avengers with Cassie Lang and Ms. Marvel. This is not the direction I think they should be taking the MCU in, but of course, that was a major failure, and it was one of the worst performing installments in the MCU for them. Then we had the Little Mermaid live-action adaptation, which of course was surrounded in controversy because of course they did ultimately decide to race swap Ariel and choose Halle Bailey for the role. But not only that even aside, they made major story changes to this. They removed certain songs and altered certain songs because they wanted them to appeal more to a modern audience, and they felt that they deserved a fresh remake. So of course that was going to fail because someone like me who has so much love and nostalgia for these characters wouldn't go and support it. We also had Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, a movie that of course was supposed to be Harrison Ford's last go as this iconic character, and there was the female in it, Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character, who ended up making fun of him half the time, and they were trying to, throughout the movie, almost push her as the next Indiana Jones, even though by the end they did not go in that direction. But we had heard that they had 4 different endings filmed, and they weren't sure which they were gonna go with, and then they decided to end it with the one where it's just Indy grabbing his hat because they wanted to kind of leave that door open. They didn't want to definitively say, we are going to be putting her as the next iteration of this character, even though it wouldn't be called Indiana Jones anymore, it would just be a spin-off. And then of course we had Secret Invasion, which cost them a whopping $211 million and ended up again being one of the worst pieces of content in the MCU. Of course, there was a majorly star-studded cast with Emilia Clarke, Samuel L. Jackson, Ben Mendelsohn. I mean, the list goes on, and they just failed to capture an audience with this show. And then, of course, by the end, we found out Gia, Emilia Clarke's character, is supposedly, again, for the 5th time over the past few years, the strongest character in the MCU because they're constantly trying to say, oh my goodness, a new, strong female character. Well, she's actually the strongest, which of course is absolutely absurd. But, going back to what this Disney exec said, everyone says it's the movie, stupid, which is an easy thing for people to say. More appealing movies are a great way to jump the political issues. No, you should not be putting any sort of political messages in any sort of content like this, especially ones that are so blatantly obvious. But when it comes to the MCU, we see things that are the here and that are the now and that end up aging the content, and in 10 years when you go back to watch it, it makes you cringe because you go, oh yeah, I remember when this was going on. I remember when this controversy on social media was happening, because that's what they reference in these shows, in these movies. It's just not good entertainment. People want to be entertained. We watch the MCU, we watch these Disney princess films because they are escapism, and that is what these executives do not understand anymore. But more and more, our audience equate the perceived messaging in a film as a quality issue. It is a quality issue. If you pick a writer who cannot leave their personal politics at the door, or you are telling them to not do that and to put their political messaging into a piece of content, it is going to fail, and that is a problem. That is a quality issue. That means that your quality is low because you cannot get people to work on your project who actually know what they're doing and are capable of creating a good piece of content. They won't say they find female empowerment distasteful in the Marvels or Star Wars, but they will say they don't like those movies because they are bad. For years, we have tried to tell companies like Disney in 10 different ways what is wrong with their content. We tried telling them it's not just the fact that you're picking female lead characters. I love seeing a good female lead character. Many of you do as well. There are plenty of video games and movies and TV shows where there's lead females, and those pieces of content are amazing. The problem is the dialogue they have, their story, how they are ultimately Mary Sue's, Rey Skywalker, Palpatine, whatever you want to call her, has become the poster child for Mary Sue, and that's sad. We don't want to see that happen. We want to say it's a good character, but you need to write a good character for people to praise that character as good. So make better movies becomes code for make movies that conform to regressive gender stereotypes or put men front and center in that narrative. Things like stereotypes where you have feminine women and masculine men and men saving women are not bad things. They're not negative. The problem is that in order to not show those stereotypes at all whatsoever, you have gone so far in the other direction that you have made it so there are no men, or the men are just bumbling idiots, and the women are the strong ones, the women are the independent ones, and the women are basically gods. If you found that common ground, we would have nothing to criticize you over, these female characters over, your storytelling over, but this Disney executive sounds so extremely salty simply because we're not bending the knee and ultimately saying, this is gonna be great, we're gonna support it no matter what, we're gonna waste all of the money that we possibly can, which just isn't the way that things work anymore. They want us to blindly support the bullshit that they're putting out, and that is just not happening anymore. Audiences don't hate diverse characters, they hate when we are being slammed as sexists or racists or bigots simply because we do not like a piece of content because it happens to feature a black character or a female character, and that's just not okay. You cannot attack us like that. And when you attack us like that, yes, there are going to be a certain group of people who are going to criticize what you're putting out maybe a bit more harshly, but it's really hard. There's honestly no way to defend a company like Disney at this point when time and time again we've given them so much feedback, tried so many times to help them see the error in their ways and tried to help them understand why we don't like Rey Skywalker, why we don't like Captain Marvel, why we don't like Miss Marvel, but they only see that, oh, they're women characters, so you're just a sexist, which of course is absurd. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.